Okay, guys, I've got a video here I'd like to talk about. Society, capitalism, working 9 to 5 is a scam. I can prove it. I want to know what this guy's gonna say. Uncaged Eagle, okay? So, people in the comments, the United States is a massive scam. Everything is a scam here. It's not just the United States, my guy. The most insane thing, these borrowed money is printed out of thin air. I'm pissed about it too. I'm pissed. Backed by nothing but blind faith in the system. It's a joke. It is a joke. It's like the thing I think about to do with that is like, you know, that what's that cartoon, Wildy the Coyote or something like that, where they run off a cliff and then they're still running but they're in midair, you know, but they're still running because they believe that they're running. The most insane. I read that already. Saw a Reagan documentary yesterday. Okay, I don't know much about Reagan, but people seem to like him. Those that fall behind are left behind. Yes, that's how things are, unfortunately, at the moment. All government is unnatural and tyrannical. Get a tattoo of that. Okay.
So much of life is a scam, and I'm going to prove it to you.
Okay.
Just think
Please
about what
do.
most people do, right? They spend most of their life doing some 9 to 5, right? Now, this
They
isn't
do.
about whether 9 to 5s are good or not. Like, some 9 to 5s obviously very essential. I understand
No shade if you enjoy your 9 to 5. You know, we need doctors and firefighters and all that stuff, you know. But you probably should consider, are you being paid adequately? Because in my opinion, you're not.
this. I'm not, I get it. Say you're a plumber, that's important, right? The thing is, what I'm trying to say is that plumber is going to pay tax. Okay, so you pay tax. Okay. We'll get to that later in the video, but let's just
You pay tax and then you pay tax and then some more tax.
focus on the core aspect here. So he's paying some tax. Okay, so he works. After he's paid that tax, he's got his take-home pay, so to say. Now, what does he need to do? Well, actually, let's just say he wants to buy a house. Our fictional character, he wants to buy a house. Okay, maybe he lives in Australia where houses are very expensive, but let's just say he lives in a smaller town where it's
Okay, so far it's been one tax, which is your tax of your wages, right? In the UK, they have a tax for your wage tax, right? And then there's a tax for your national insurance, which is like what facilitates the free healthcare, which means that it's not free.
bit more affordable, right? So, because everyone is trying to get a loan in society to buy a house, what that means is, by definition, everyone is spending more money than they have to get a house, a basic living essential, a non-negotiable.
Yep, it's become impossible to just buy a house, bro. When was the unless you're in the boonies, you know? But who can, like, even if you wanted to, can you live in the boonies realistically? Most people cannot. Most people can't. They will die of starvation.
In my opinion, but apparently it's a luxury to want to have that. But so you buy a house with borrowed money. That right there is going to drive the prices up even further. But
It is because these suckers want to take debt to get this. Okay, well, they don't care how much it's gonna cost then, I guess. Maybe we can just raise it 10% every year and nobody's gonna care that much because, oh, well, it's another $5 interest on top of my monthly payment. Next time it's $10. And, you know, sooner or later you're in a position which is, well, you are leaning forward and getting fisted.
we'll get to that later. You basically take out a mortgage, right? So the bank essentially really owns the house until you pay off the mortgage, right? Yes, you have equity, but
Yep.
I'm trying to simplify this here.
Yep.
Okay.
If you've got a mortgage, then the bank is the real owner of the house. And once you pay it off, really it's the government who owns the house.
What most people don't know is you're not actually paying the bank. You're paying, well, the banks sell that debt in the form of a mortgage-backed security.
Yes, you remember the 2008 crisis? Yes, I'd bet most of you do, unless some young people are watching, but they're probably into that brain rot scrolling stuff, so I wouldn't bank on it. But a mortgage backed security is what caused the 2008 crisis because they did some shady stuff with it, like they always do. They always do shady stuff.
So essentially, you're just paying some rich person or some group of people or whoever they sell it to.
Yeah.
Usually they sell them in bundles. You're basically working, you're paying tax, okay? You're then paying basically whatever leftover you have to a mortgage, which is just paying for some rich guy who's minimizing his tax. He's not playing the game, but anyway. I'm using he because it's just an easier fictional character to say. You know, could be a woman, could be a man, doesn't really matter. What I'm trying to say is, okay, so you're buying this house, so you've paid a mortgage. That money you're paying after tax is literally just going to some rich guy. Okay, fine. Now, forgetting the house, let's go to the more expenses in one's life. You work your 9 to 5, 40, 50 week, whatever hours you work, you know, you slave away
Oh, we're getting into the meat of things because, yeah, you don't just pay one tax. You're taxed at every transaction.
and that's fine if you know you do it. Okay, so you want to buy food, right? Okay, so how's food work? Well, what basically happens is large companies, from what I understand, they don't pay farmers a huge amount for the food they buy, but that's a whole nother
That's a bit of an understatement.
thing. I'm not going to focus on that for now. What I'm going to focus on is inflation. So there's something in finance called anticipatory inflation. You can look it up, anticipatory inflation. You know what that is? It's exactly what you think it is.
It sounds ominous.
When companies think inflation is going to go up, you know what they do? They raise the prices in anticipation of inflation, and everyone does it. So everyone's just raising the prices. Oh, well, you know, and sometimes they even make record profits doing so. But you've got to understand inflation.
Sometimes, or maybe every year consecutively for decades. Maybe that.
Inflation, you know, they have to raise it because of inflation, right? But what's another reason why inflation exists? So you earn this little salary from your job, and it's often not a really good salary, but even if you earn an okay salary, you work, you slave away your life, which I've been, you know, I'll go into that more in other videos. I can't stand that, but you know, okay, you slave away. You know, usually people do it because they want to have a family or something, but essentially, you're slaving away. All right, you
Good
make money,
cause.
goes to to buy food. There's inflation, but then there's another type of inflation. It's when governments print more money, and most people, I'm pretty sure, are aware of this.
The secret inflation. The sneaky way to steal your money.
Governments essentially sell government bonds to generate money. Quantitative easing, it's called. I hope I'm getting that correct the way I'm saying it, but essentially they create government bonds and then like buy them back and it makes money
That's correct.
come out of thin air. And society goes, okay, sure, because it's good for the economy. In fact, I was actually talking to my rich friend.
No, it's not good for the economy. In fact, it's terrible for the economy and it leads to loss of trust in currency, which is one of the major reasons why the Roman Empire fell because people stopped trusting what was it called, the dinero, the Roman dinero, because they diluted the base metal so much. It was originally 100% silver and they added tons and tons of other things like nickel to dilute the coins till they became basically worthless and nobody wanted them. And that's what's happening now with the fiat currency because fiat currency means that the only thing that is it's backed by is that they said so. That's it. Before, the dollar was pegged to gold, meaning that for every somewhat amount of dollars, X amount of dollars, you get so much gold. And this is guaranteed to you by law, right? But that stopped being the case, and now it's just monopoly money.
About this, and it's fun to talk to these guys, like it goes, well, actually, it's very good for the economy, and I'm like, okay, fine, But what I'm trying to say is, governments make you pay tax on money that they make up. They then spend that money on absolutely useless things, like Australia decides to just, buy submarines, because apparently that's like really important. Apparently, submarines, and actually, no, better example. Australia, I'm from Australia, so I'm obviously going to talk about my country. Australia gave, I think it was 500 million Australian dollars to Papua New Guinea, and you might think, oh, that's a good thing. Yeah, I would say, help. I love Papua New Guinea a lot. I actually talk Bisan, so I like their. What did they give it to in Papua New Guinea? Did they build something? No, they gave it to play rugby league. I'm not making this up. If you're not from Australia, rugby league's actually a really cool sport. It's kind of like you tackle people. I don't know how to explain it. I've never played it, but it's
Rugby is like American football, but without the helmets and armor.
cool sport. Anyway, so for Papua New Guinea to have a rugby league team, okay, why'd they do that? Oh, because they're worried China's. I mean, this is politics for you. It's ridiculous. We have homeless people on the streets. Oh no, that's not important. What's important is like China. It's just governments are such a scam. Honestly, in Australia, if you are
Yes, that is one thing that grinds my gears majorly is how much tax money is wasted. And every so often in the UK, you get a sort of a story about these like dinners that politicians have on our dime, and it's always some ridiculous number. It's never like, okay, well, this guy spent, £50 on a cheeseburger. It's always like 10 grand for a dinner party. And it's not even like any foreign executives coming or foreign representatives. It's just they decided to have a party or something like that. They had a very important meeting to discuss how they're going to waste more money.
A high-paid doctor. I come from a medical
Or so I've heard. This is speculation.
family, so I know how this stuff works. But doctors pay like 50% of the tax bracket's like 50% basically, and it's just like, okay, so you're paying all this money, 50% that you have to pay. Like you don't have any other option because like if you don't work, you don't. It's just society's like a rat race, and I find it absolutely insane that people don't realize it's a scam. Just like life.
Bro, trust me, more people do not realize that it's a scam. But the problem is that alternative routes are being destroyed more and more because is it voluntary or is it compulsory? Because if you try to do something else, you're gonna get screwed.
Like, whether you love or hate capitalism, it's definitely very exploitative in its nature. I mean, just factually. Like, if you look at, for example, mortgage-backed securities, I was just talking about that at the start of the video. That was actually one of the things that caused the global financial crisis in 2008, right? So too many people defaulted on their loans, and that crashed the market and had global effects, right? Look at like the Great Depression and like.
Well, it's not really like that. It's not that too many people defaulted on their loans. That's true. But the real problem was that they actually misled the investors by placing high risk mortgage backed securities together with low risk ones and sold them as bundles called triple A bundles, okay, or triple A somethings. And so you got these bad loans mixed together with the good loans, and it turned out that it was fraud. And that's why everything crashed, because they committed fraud. And they still got bailed out. End of story.
What I'm trying to say is, but so much of life, it's just such a scam. And like, you might be watching this, if anyone's watching, which I doubt anyone is, and you might be thinking, I feel like life's a bit of a scam. Well, you're right. And the problem with someone like me is I find it very, very hard to take society seriously. One of the reasons Rome fell, most people don't know this, but it was...
There we go, bro. I don't know. I think I've seen this video before. Maybe that's why I'm talking about Rome before this guy even. But I called it. I called it with the Rome. And maybe it's true that every guy thinks about Rome at least once a day.
Because they stopped using the silver denarius. Yeah. And the silver denarius was made out of silver, pure silver. And they started not using silver coins. They started using this like copper bronze. It was like a copper silver hybrid, mostly copper. And what happened was nobody had...
I think it was nickel, actually.
Confidence in the currency, and Rome lost its like buying power, and the standard of living went down, and all these other problems happened as well. But what I'm trying to say is this stuff's happened before. This isn't news what I'm telling you. But society just has this blinder on. Oh, okay, it's all democracy. Oh yes, well because we have democracy, it's all good. That's the thing I find. Because of democracy, we'll figure it out. We've got democracy. It's like, well, it's obviously not working because like, I don't know. I have thoughts. Okay, I'm just a person. So I'm just speaking my mind. I'm not a god. I'm just a person with an opinion. But basically, people say, "Oh, democracy. Oh, I'm so free." And yeah, but then you spend your whole life slaving away just to make some guy rich with your mortgage. Like you're a slave to the bank. Like it's. And then
that's real democracy right there. That's real freedom.
Something happens to you, like say you're a nice, hard-working person, you're proud of your hard work, and that's fine. And then you get into a car crash or something, and then you can't work anymore, and then workers' compensation doesn't pay because it wasn't at their job, or some crap. Things go wrong. We all know this, right? Ask any homeless person, they'll tell you, things went wrong for them. It's quite sad. There's this myth that like all homeless people are crazy. It's not true. It's just that's the thing people want to tell themselves so they can, justify them living that horrible life, but. It's like, things can go wrong. So you might be, like, I've heard so many stories because of I'm family medical, so I know a lot about these topics. Basically, you get like plumbers, and they're a plumber, and then they like hurt their back or something at work, and they can't work anymore, and then they like, you can't really just get, what people don't realize about the working world is you can't just get another job. Like, you could be a qualified plumber or electrician or something, and it's very hard to just go into sales. Like, depends how old you are. I'm sure it's possible, but it's hard, And if you spent your life as something, and then suddenly at like 50 you have an injury, and you got kids to feed, like, society just doesn't cater to these mistakes. When I say mistake, I mean like misfortunate event. That's what I'm trying to say by mistake. Say if you're on a motorbike and you fall off it, that's what I mean by mistake, an accident. Society just doesn't have a filter for that. Like people slip through the cracks all the time. The way I like to think of society is it's all well and good if you're part of the system and everything's going your way. So if you're like,
It's all well and good if you're a productive asset. And the minute you need help, everybody turns their back on you. And that's just how things are, I guess.
I don't know, I've never really been normal, but I'm trying to imagine what a normal person would feel like. If you're like, I don't know, a teacher or something, and I don't know why I picked teacher, but you're a teacher and you hang out with other teachers and, you meet people and the nice policeman's nice to you because you're the teacher, and like the plumber's nice to you because you're a teacher, and everyone's nice to you because you're one of the little cogs in the wheel. Sorry, itchy nose. One of the, and then suddenly you might be a teacher and you might like, anything could happen, honestly. You could have like an accident or something, anything could happen. You lose your job. And then suddenly you're facing homelessness, Your house could burn down, you might not have insurance. Like, there's all sorts of like things that can go wrong in this world. Because honestly, it's a very exploitative world. So it's very easy to, insurance companies are such a scam too, but I could get to that, another thing. Insurance is basically like the opposite of gambling. Like you're just hoping, how do I say this? They're making money on like hoping nothing goes wrong to you. But anyway, whatever. Insurance is legitimate, it's just a complicated thing. I'm sort of ranting again. What I'm trying to say is things can go wrong so easily in this world. And then that society that you love so much isn't there for you anymore.
Yeah, and that's when you see a whole different side to it. That's when you thought everything was all rosy and peachy. But then, oh, would you look at that? You're no longer valued at all. At all. Can you imagine? I have met homeless people that I met this one guy in Glasgow, and his mother died when he was 8, and his father was never there, and his whole life was on the street, and he was probably 20 years old, and all he's known is being in the gutter of society. And it's safe to say that he did drugs and all that, but I don't think he was a bad person. But the circumstances of his life were horrible. And there's nothing there to help him. There's nothing.
When I was younger, I sort of like believed that having a great personality would just get you through life. Like, I'll be a good guy, I'll just be nice to people. And even to this day, I still sort of think like, oh, well, I'll just be really nice to everyone, I'll just like help people. And that's not how the world works. Like, you can be a nice person or you can be a friendly person. Sorry, my nose is itchy. And then something goes wrong and then suddenly you're the bad guy, I notice a lot with having a sleep disorder and having depression is that people, they treat you very, very differently based on that. And the thing is, it's not an obvious thing that you would see. So people don't look at me and go, oh, he's got like some sort of issue, a disability, whatever you call it. It almost is like a disability not being able to sleep. It's like a bodily function I find hard to do. But
yeah, it is. It is kind of like that. And depression as well. It is kind of like being disabled in a way because you're stuck being like low energy all the time. And I've had depression before, and when I opened up to people, some people, they would be like, oh, pitying, whatever. Nobody really knows how to address it. And I regret opening it up to people because it never went well. It was either they didn't understand how to respond or they looked down on me for being a weakling. It was one of the two most of the time. Unless they were a therapist that was paid to help me. But yeah, nobody wants to share in your problems. Nobody wants to help you dig through the mud. Everybody just wants to be there when you're when everything's Gucci.
If you can't walk, that's a disability. But then if you can't sleep, apparently that's not a disability. So, of course, other people get to define who is disabled and who's not. But what I'm trying to say is like, you slave away 9 to 5. You do all these things. You pay your mortgage. You pay your taxes on time, and you're a good citizen, so to say. And then something goes wrong, and society's not there for you. Ask anyone on welfare what you're treated like. I've known so many people who are on welfare, and they get treated horribly. I'll give you an example of someone who had a kidney failure. He was on dialysis, and the welfare office tried to force him to work when he was basically just about to have a kidney transplant. It was only that some doctors actually stepped in and said, this guy is, not in good shape. Otherwise, he would have been homeless. So, this isn't in Australia, by the way. In Australia, we're supposed to be this amazing country where, like, everything's great. But in reality, our standard of living is going down. I think as well, a lot of it comes down to, from my analysis and my sort of pondering of life, as someone who studied anthropology, I think a lot about this. I think that when people have a sort of average life, they want to sort of justify to themselves that they're doing the right thing, so to say. So, like, if you're a plumber and it's hard, I've met tradesmen and it sounds pretty like not the most fun work, let's put it that way. And then some homeless guys on the street, it's like for them it's easier to say, well, they're like it's hard for people to sort of admit that maybe in another life they could have been like that, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because
You don't want to be thinking that it's all your problem, you know? You don't want to be thinking that it's your fault that other people are homeless or whatever. But, you know, I've recently sort of come to the understanding of a phrase, and this phrase is collective responsibility, because I'm from Ukraine originally. And if you don't know, there's a war going on right now, and Russia is attempting to genocide Ukrainians. And I believe that Russians are collectively responsible for that, even if they are not taking part at all. And this is a kind of an illustration of the fact that we are all building the bigger picture together as one unit. It's like a cup of water is just a bunch of particles, molecules of H2O. So all of us together build the bigger picture. So I do think that every person is responsible for the bigger picture.
a lot of these homeless people, they've probably been abused or something, to be honest. Like, I don't know. Bad things have probably happened to them to make them live that type of life. In Sydney, I would see them a lot, and I would think, I'd think about like their life and like something must have really gone wrong to have them on the street like that. But most people don't think like me. Most people go, oh, they're stupid, or one of our premiers in Australia, a premier is like a head of a state, and states are just like parts of the country. It's stupid, really. It should just be the whole country. But the premier literally said this on the news, like, I find homeless people offensive to look at. I'm like, you're the premier of the state. You should be fixing this problem. But this is the state we live in. Like, her statement wasn't even seen as bad. It was like, oh, that's what she said. Like, society is just so stupid, in my opinion,
That's her constituents.
to be honest. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to anthropology so much, because society makes no sense to me. But it's such a scam. Like, finance, just like learn, don't believe me. Honestly, don't believe me. Look up finance, capitalism, look at all that yourself. Look up mortgage-backed securities. Look up, how quantitative easing, like, look all this stuff up yourself. I'm not making this up. This is just finance. Finance 101. All the bankers know this
It is indeed. I can provide a second opinion. That is indeed the thing that's happening.
stuff. All the rich people know this stuff. But it's just like, and also like inflation, it kills whatever. Say people say, I have a savings account. Well, okay. You realize that's losing value, right? Over time. I have a savings.
That's right. Because if your savings account has a savings rate, whatever, interest rate of 3%, say, and and inflation is 4% for the year, what does that mean? That means that you lost 1% value in your savings account.
Account. Like, here's a clever one. I have a high interest savings account. Yeah, that's not the best idea. I can't give this is not financial advice. No, this is just an opinion of a person. But it's high interest savings account. In finance, it's called the real yield. So you have to like minus inflation to calculate the real value of the money. And essentially, you're not really making any money. Or you're probably losing money. So what I'm trying to say is, society is like, I think because of the internet, people are starting to sort of wake up a little bit to this, to be honest. And I think as the cost of
Yes, bless the internet. The internet is going to change things so much. Finally, we can exchange ideas freely, and there's nobody who is able to stop the constant flow, the tidal wave of free ideas.
living gets higher, more people are going to realize. My view of society is it's kind of like a wave. Once people start to realize, they tell other people, and then sort of it becomes more in the consciousness, if that makes sense. Like, sort of like with environmentalism, it was like not popular, but then it becomes more popular over time, right? And culture and society, it's almost like a regime, like there's sort of like a thing that's okay to think. Like there was one point where, caring about the climate or whatever, or environment or whatever, that was apparently not, it was not normal, but then it became normal. Now it's sort of gone back where it's not. And it's sort of, society's like a regime that sort of dictates what you're allowed to think, essentially.
Yeah, there's a safe set of beliefs where if you choose to adopt these beliefs, you're going to be safe from being looked down upon or canceled or any of these, even prosecuted. You could get prosecuted for some beliefs. Some beliefs are illegal, like believing that fascism is great. That's not a thing that you can do. Or believing that you should. I'm not going to get into it, but beliefs are policed, definitely. Whether it's with soft power or hard power, as in prosecutions and criminal responsibility.
And I've never been a person that can follow along. I don't, something's wrong with my, wrong or right, depending on how you look at it. My personality just does not fit, like I'm supposed to work 9 to 5 for low pay to buy a house that's expensive because of banks, and I'm supposed to like pay it to a mortgage-backed security so some rich guy can fly around the world in a private jet and pay no tax.
That's basically, yeah, that sums it up.
I'm supposed to be cool with that. Like I've been friends with rich people. I like them. I'm not even like having a go at them. I'm just saying it's the system. That's the thing. Most people who make these types of videos, they're usually like anti this or anti that. I'm just speaking my mind. You can tell I don't even have an agenda when I'm speaking. I'm just speaking. I'm just, ranting on YouTube because that's apparently like, I decided that would be a great thing to do with my time. And it's actually quite fun. But I don't know if
It's a great video. That's a great video. And I will say, like, it's true, it is the system. But do recently there was a thing where Billie Eilish went in on Elon Musk on X, right? Saying like he should donate more money and and whatever his name is. What the fuck? Elon Musk came back with some kind of weak, what I thought was a weak response. But really, the crux of the issue is like, should they really have so much money? Isn't it kind of egregiously, isn't it ridiculous? Because you know where that money's coming from. It's from the pockets of regular people who don't have billions, bro. It's from regular people who maybe they bought a Tesla because of the false marketing, the auto fucking drive or whatever. And it just keeps going. And the more, get this, bro, the more money they have, the more they can make it so that they get more of it. So it's a cumulative thing. It builds upon itself. So there's really no no way out of this without us changing things, because they're not going to change things. Anyway, this was a really, really good video. Society, capitalism, working 9 to 5 is a scam. I can prove it. I don't know if this counts as proof, but it was certainly an entertaining video. Thank you very much, Uncaged Eagle, guys. Please subscribe to Uncaged Eagle and to my channel and leave a like, and I'll see you in the next video.